Hey everybody, Jochen Hayden. I'm back. Um, so a little disclaimer, I just watched the last video I uploaded, part 3, and I noticed that all of the dialog boxes that I was clicking on to show you from, down in the corner of stuff were not showing up. So apparently the way I was capturing this video, the window grab wasn't working, so I've switched it up. I'm now doing a whole display capture. So hopefully now the dialog boxes will be captured when I bring them up. So I apologize for that. Um, I'm relatively new to making these types of videos, so I'm still kind of figuring out the best way forward. So hopefully we won't have any more issues, and I'll be able to give you guys a good rundown on this stuff, and there won't be anything missing. So let's get right into the Resources tab. This particular tab shows you the location of all of your resources at their bases or on task forces. So you can see here it shows you your location. It shows you at each base what you have for supply, fuel, resources, and oil. And down here at the bottom you'll see a totals which shows you your total amount of each of those 4 resources and where they're located. So in our case, for supply, we've got about 3 million at bases, 400,000 loaded on ships. Our land units, our land combat units, have 163,000 in their possession for a total of 3.5 million, and so on and so forth. It's pretty intuitive here. One thing that I do want to point out to you is this spoilage tab. This is actually something very important to you. You may find out as you go through your campaign that you'll start seeing stuff pop up over here that's a spoilage. This means that you have a supply of whatever type in excess of what the base is able to maintain and hold on to. So that means you need to get that supply out of there or it's going to be lost. We only have 2 bases right now that are showing spoilage, but you may have more, especially if you take one of those island atolls, anything like that, and you try to dump a lot of stuff on there. They have supply limits, and if you go to the base card in the game, it will show you what those supply limits are, so you don't exceed them. So keep an eye on this spoilage tab, and if you see a base that's got way more supply stacked up here, or fuel, or whatever it might be, move it out of there, or it's going to be wasted. It's going to be lost. So that's basically it for the spoilage tab. Okay, leaders tab. This is a listing of all the leaders that you have in your game right now. So there's a lot of ways to sort this. You can sort it by their current assignments or where they're, best lead. So this is what the game is telling you these people would be best assigned to. So sometimes they suggest that a general would be better heading a headquarters, or a large ground unit, or a task force if it's an admiral, something like that. If you want to sort it out by country, or correction, by Army or IJ Navy, if you're playing as Japan, or of one of the many countries on the Allies, you can sort it that way. Also, this is showing all kinds of different types of assignments. So this shows currently assigned, whether they're active or not. This is assigned and active only. This is unassigned, and this is unassigned and active. So the difference between these ones is that active means they're currently in battle right now. They're in the game available for you to use. If it's just unassigned, you see a lot of them have this delay over here. That means that they're not yet available to be used. So if you're not worried about guys that aren't on the map yet, then you should go by unassigned and active. And that will show you who is available to move around to a different command, and they're in the battle right now. So that's the leaders tab. It's pretty cool. And of course you get to also see their stats if you want to like sort like who is the absolute best leader, who is unassigned and active. By the way, this is a great admiral. I highly recommend you put him in a destroyer unit. You can see their leadership, their inspiration levels. Again, Tanaka, top of the list. This guy's hot. Anyway, you can sort this any different kinds of way. Their rank, name, their best lead, all that stuff. So this is a great tab for leaders. Let's continue on. Okay, land combat units. This is a big one. This basically shows you all of your land combat units as they currently exist in the game right now. And you can sort it by the type of unit they are. You can sort it by their status. So active means what you got on the map right now. Reinforcement means what you're going to get eventually. And then this continues off to the side over here. So this is showing you what you will be getting later on. And then withdrawal are the units that need to leave the map at some point. So if you sort right here, this shows you all the units that during the entire course of the war will be leaving the map at some point if you're playing as Japan. This is quite a bit larger for the Allies. They rotate people in and out more often. The Japanese do not. So this is good for you to keep track of what units got to come off as far as ground combat units. All right. And again, reinforcement is units that you will be getting. And right here, it tells you the delay. So this is how many days it's going to be before they're on the map. Okay. And also there's some stuff here for planning. This is basically shows you if you have a unit assigned or they're planning for something. These are ones that they're planning for their own base. They also have some for enemy bases or not currently located. So another cool thing about this particular thing, and okay, we're going to go to active only. This shows you a lot of stats about your units right now. Okay. And if you click on a particular unit and the line and you click this history tab, it shows you turn by turn changes in the status of the unit. So for example, from turn 2 to turn 3, the General Defense Army gained 2 morale, its supply requirements went up, its total supply went up as well. Now you may be wondering, why did it go up? Why does the supply need go up? And if you click on contents, you'll notice that this unit is currently repairing devices. So it gained a support device, and it looks like it gained 9 vehicles. So now it has more units out of its total table of equipment max. It gained 3 percentage points because it's recovering, it's building back, it's resting. And as you continue to load turns, you get more and more data here. And that will in turn allow you to see the changes in any particular land combat unit on the map. Okay, and let's take a look down here. This particular information block down here shows you what's in that unit. So if we click on First Fleet over here, it'll show us basically a summary of the stats of that unit. It will show us what's part of it. We can also scroll down here and look at some of our big infantry divisions, right? This shows you that the unit currently has 84% of its full power strength. That's just assault value, experience, morale. The replacement and upgrade situation that you have set up, the order op mode and the combat type that it's currently in the game. You can't change anything from here, but you can see it. And it will also show you the type of devices that are assigned to it. Devices being all the weapons, the units, the squads, all those in here. What you have on the left are what are active and available right now, and what you have in the parentheses are what are disabled right now. So let's click on the history tab for the 3rd division, and you'll see from turn 2 to turn 3 the needed supply went up significantly because, clicking on contents, it is recovering some support units, and also it gained some guns. One reason you may not see it going as fast as it could is that it looks like there's a supply issue over there at that base. So it takes supply to bump these bad boys up. And also it needs headquarters units in the same hex, that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is a really cool tab just to keep track of all of your units, okay? And briefly, the formations. These are the different types of formations that exist for the Japanese. Some of these are standalone one-off units like the General Defense Army. You'll see here it has its own unit, that's it. There's no 2 distinct or different General Defense Armies. But if we look down here at like RGC Infantry Division, this is a standard like template of what an RGC Infantry Division should look like. Okay, these are the squads and the devices that they have. And down here, it'll show you that there are a total of 6 of these identical type of formations on the map right now. This will show you where they're at, and there's the grid. And it will also show you if there's some that are inactive or if there are some that are coming in later on. So RGC Capital Divisions, this is the template of what they should have right here. And down here are the 3 units that share that same template, even though none of them are currently on the map. So that's the Formations tab, and that's Land Combat Units data set in a nutshell. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. But it's pretty self-explanatory about what's going on with this, okay? Now we're going to talk about Land Combat Unit Production. And this one, I'm going to be honest with you, this is one of the tabs that I probably know the least about. I will do my best to explain it, but if I don't fully answer your questions, please let me know in the comments what you want to know more specifically, and I'll go out and get those answers. So basically, Land Combat Unit Production is a snapshot of what's being done to repair and replace all of your land combat units right now. So there are 3 main things that the game uses to reform or build up devices, squads, guns, all that stuff for your land combat units. It needs manpower, armament, and vehicles. Manpower, you'll never have too little of. Armaments and vehicles, you might. So this is something that you're going to have to manage in your industry side of the Japanese campaign. So the game takes all of this stuff here and produces replacement devices for these land combat units. So we can take a look at some of these that are in the red. I'm not entirely certain. I haven't gotten a good, clear picture of what these colors represent. I would assume that green is good, red is bad. Black means they're probably not on the map yet, or they're perfectly fine. I think it means they're not on the map. Okay, there it is. So the black shows you that they're not on the map yet. There's a delay in days when they will show up. So black means they're not even there yet. And we could probably filter that out here by going status active. Right, see all the black ones left? So then we're left with green, which I assume is good, red, which I assume is bad, and yellow, which is kind of mediocre. So let's click on a yellow one here. I'm going to adjust this a bit. So this is showing us that this unit has a total of 223 naval support, but it has 17 disabled units or devices. The total should be 240. So if we click on the history of this thing, here's the history tab. It shows us that, again, just like the LCU thing before, this is very similar to it. We click on contents. From one turn to the next, it increased, but not very much. Probably because there's a supply issue there. So there's not much more I can say about this. This is one of those tabs where I'm not entirely sure what all it does and shows, but it does function similarly to the LCU tab. And then there's one other thing about this. It has this chart here. So I'm not entirely sure how this chart works or what it's supposed to mean. I think it's actually partially cut off here. Let me see if I can expand it so you guys can see it better. All right, so we have a little bit of a chart over here, and it's currently showing the political points, right? And these are units, accumulative political points, and number of units down here. How this is important, I'm not entirely certain. I think what this is showing us is a total amount of political points invested into the units that we're going to have between 0 turns and 1500 turns, which is more or less the end of the war over here. All right, and you can also look at armament production. So right now, if you don't change your armament production at all, you leave it exactly as it's supposed to be, this is how many armament points you're going to have between beginning of the war and end of the war. And depending on how much you use, how much you have to rebuild, you may have to dip into this quite a bit. If you lose a lot of devices in battle, you may see the armament point needs chart change. Now, granted, we only have 2 turns of data in here, so we may be missing out a lot of stuff here. Also shows vehicles. So you can see here that as we progress through the war, the needs for vehicle points is going to go up higher than our actual production as it stands right now. So you may want to think about bumping up your production levels of vehicles to keep this blue line at or above the demand here. So I think that's how this chart works. If I'm totally off the mark and you know that I am, please tell me so I can correct myself. But that's basically what I understand about LCU production tab. I'll be honest with you, it's not one that I use that often. I don't find the information here to be that important, but you might. So hopefully that you get a brief understanding of that. Let me fix my window here. Okay, and let's continue on to the aircraft tab. Okay, so this is the aircraft tab, and this is basically an information only tab for you. This basically has every aircraft in the game and all of its stats when it's available. Endurance, load, maneuverability, the climb rate, everything about every particular aircraft in the game is in here for you. Good GWiz info if you want to know about a particular aircraft type. And over here we have a attributes tab that shows you some of the things that it can do, or like type of aircraft: medium bomber, heavy bomber, carrier capable. It's a float amphibious. You can see there's all kinds of different attributes over here. Float plane. Okay. You can sort it by Japan or the Allies. You can sort it by the subdivisions of that. So on the Japanese side, the Army and the Navy are considered two different nations, even though it's the same country. Even though the way they acted during the war, they acted like they were very distinct, different countries in themselves. But you can subdivide this up by that. You can go by the type of aircraft it is and a subtype from there. Okay, and you can go by what's currently available or what's currently being researched and developed. So this is more or less just an informational type of display. And if you see here, it also gives you the card that you would see in battle, or correction, in the game. Now there's one thing I want to show you that might be really useful to you as a Japanese player. So if you look at a Japanese aircraft, let me find one here. Here, let's make this easy. You pick a Japanese aircraft and you look down here. You'll notice that the build rate says 0. All of the Japanese aircraft build rates are going to say 0 because you, as a Japanese player, fully control how much of what aircraft type you build through your armament, through your industry production. So if you want it to be 0, it can be 0. If you want to go full bore and build 1,000 of these things a month and you're willing to spend the supply points to do it, you could do that. So, but because the game doesn't know what your plans are and what your intentions are for each particular aircraft type, it just says build rate 0. But for the Allies, all of that is fixed. The build rates don't change. They're the same regardless of if you're... What I'm trying to say is that the Allies don't have any control over their build rates. They're predetermined by the game, and you don't have any intervention as the player. So why is that important, or why is that useful? Let me explain how it could be useful to you as a Japanese player. Let's say you're dealing with the Philippines and you're doing fighter sweeps over Clark Field, and you're trying to wear down the unit there, trying to shoot down all the P-40s because they got P-40s there, and you're just not really feeling like you're getting ahead of it. You may go, man, why do I keep shooting down P-40Es and they keep coming back? How many of these things do they have? Well, you can come over here, click on this, and now you can go and say, oh, okay, U.S. Army issued P-40Es are building at a rate of 35 a month. So I know that the Allies in the Philippines are going to have a maximum of up to 35 P-40Es a month they can dump in there as replacements for their aircraft every month. So I need to shoot down more than 35 P-40Es a month to win the war of attrition in the Philippines. So this is just good for you to know. And also if you're an Allied player and you want to start thinking about re-equipping units, upgrading, and you're curious how many of these things, let's say you want to swap to P-51D Mustangs later in the war, this is going to tell you when they're available and how many a month you're going to get. So you can plan accordingly what fighter squadrons you want to re-equip and when, because you only get 30 a month. So you can't just go replace all of your Army Air Force fighter units with P-51Ds in November of 1944 because you won't make enough of those per month. So this is why this section is good, especially this build rate. I refer to this a lot when I'm playing as both the Allies and the Japanese, so I know how many of each type of aircraft I'll be getting. This information is also available in the game, but this is a lot easier to read and a lot easier to get to using the tracker. Okay, so that is the aircraft tab. Okay, now we have air production, and this is a tab that's particularly useful to the Japanese player because you fully control how many aircraft you build per month. All right, so let me just kind of go over how this thing works. We'll sort this by either Army or Navy. Let's look at Navy. We'll look at aircraft all, engine type all, status all, and you can make this simple or complex. Okay, I personally like the simple tab because it gives me just the information I really need. So let's look at the 0, for example. We know that it's a fighter type. It uses one engine of the Nakajima HA-35 type. It uses 56 engines a month at its current build rate. And we currently have 30 zeros in our replacement pool to upgrade old units, to replace aircraft that are shot down or damaged. And right here, this is the build rate. Okay, in the parentheses is how many that you're currently producing per month, and over here on the left is how many that are being made per day. So obviously, you're not going to get 1.87 aircraft a day. You're going to see 1. But let's see the following day, you're going to see 2 aircraft made because it's going to take the 2 pieces of that 0.87 and make a full aircraft out of that. So as you continue to increase your production on an aircraft, you'll see this. This is the daily replacement rate that you're going to get into your pool, and this is how many per month. Okay, this is how many industries are currently repairing. This is how many are building. Over here, this shows you how many are needed for replacing and upgrading, and this is how many are needed for the pool and reinforcements for your entire Navy side. All right, and this shows you when the next group is arriving that's going to need this aircraft type. It's going to be in April of 1942. If you go back to the more complicated view here, there's one thing that I do like to see is this loss rate. So on the left is how many you lost on this turn day, and over here is how many you've lost for the entire campaign. So obviously we're showing 29 losses of zeros between the last few turns we played because Pearl Harbor happened. We're doing stuff in the Philippines. We're doing stuff in Malaya. We've lost some zeros. And it shows you your average losses per day. That average will go down as your campaign progresses because you'll lose less every day, and the average will drop because you're not going to be losing that many aircraft at once because you're not going to be doing Pearl Harbor type attacks every single day. All right? So also when you click on this, you can click a history, and it will show you by turn the production stats of that particular aircraft. So on turn 2, we had 28 in the pool. We're building 56 a month. We lost 24 on by that turn. By turn 3, we've got 30 in the pool. We went a +2 here. We're still building 56 a month because we're not upgrading it right now or increasing production. And now we're up to 29 losses total. And you can do that for every single aircraft in your inventory. If you click on View Engines, that opens up this box down here, and this shows you all the engine types that you have to produce or are capable of producing. Again, similar build rate pool. So right now we have 0 of this type of engine in the pool. We're building about 4.17 engines per day, and we're building a total of 125 engines per month. And you see how that makes sense, right? Divide 125 by 30 days in a month, you get approximately that number. Okay, so that this shows you the production stats of that particular engine. And again, you can, disregard the history only works for aircraft above. And if you click here, it goes back to your air groups, and this shows you every single air group you have on the map for a particular aircraft type you have selected. So we have A6M0 up here this shows us all of the 0 units that we have in our possession right now. All right, and status all, so that whether they're here or not. Some of these come on the map later on. So you have these arrival dates over here. So if we go to just available, oh, okay, it's right here. So available. These are all the 0 units that we have that are available. And if you want to change it to delayed, reinforcements needed, reinforcements available, all, that sorts out all the different units that use that aircraft right now. So that's the aircraft production tab. It's very useful to you as the Japanese player because you have to manage all of this stuff. You have to manage how many aircraft you're producing. You turn the production on or off. You expand it. You change aircraft types at your factories. All that stuff is things that you have to manage as the Japanese player. And this aircraft production tab just kind of helps you get a broader view of all of their production stats and what's needed and how many of any particular type of this or that you need. So the last thing, we'll take a look at this frame stat thing. So this will show you this top half is information about the specific aircraft you have selected up here. So this shows you how many aircraft you need to build to satisfy all your needs, whether they're upgrading old Claude units, filling out units that are coming in that are going to need the A6M2, or replacing aircraft that are lost. That's what this shows you up here. And down here is a general listing of all the aircraft you're making per month. And it's not just 0 specific, it's all the Japanese aircraft. So this one shows you how many aircraft we are currently producing per month and the heavy industry use per day. And we talked about heavy industry use, I believe, in the last video, but aircraft production does use it. And this shows you how many single engine aircraft we're building, how many 2-engine aircraft you're building, and how many 4-engine aircraft you're building. And these numbers will change based on your inputs in the industry section of your campaign. So we can talk about industry some other time and how to manipulate this and how to plan for aircraft production and all that, but I'm just showing you how this thing works. So I think we've covered aircraft production enough. All right, the last thing I want to cover in this particular segment of the video is this aircraft comparison thing. I think this is pretty cool. So let me show you why this is really neat. This allows you to compare 2 aircraft side by side. So for over here, for plane model, I'm going to pick the 0. Okay, maybe that doesn't work. I'm going to pick the 0, and I'm going to compare it to its most likely competitor at the beginning of the war that can put up a good threat. So let's look for U.S. Army. We're going to pick that darn P-40E. The thing that's always causing me trouble at the beginning of these campaigns. So we're going to go by P-40E Warhawk, U.S. Army. So this is the fighter that I've encountered a lot when I'm dealing in the Philippines, dealing with Clark Field, Manila, doing fighter sweeps, trying to suppress that place. This aircraft is always present, and it seems to be a decent competitor. So this just allows us to compare them side by side. Their speeds, their cruise speeds, endurance, range, the range in hexes, all of that information is available. Their maneuverability bands. So remember, when you're looking at the aircraft cards and you're setting altitudes, it shows you in the plane data, like at 0 to 5,000 feet, you have a 33 modifier, 6 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 25 and up. And this can let you look at real quick and see, like, okay, where is my aircraft best competing against the P-40, so I can set my altitude bands accordingly. It shows you their upgrade path, other attributes like this one is carrier capable, the P-40 is not, and finally it shows you what kind of engines they use, if they can carry drop tanks, bombs, and the type of weapons that are mounted on there. So the CL stands for center line. In this case, it should not say F for fuselage because it's actually mounted on the wing. So in as much as that, F, when it comes to the weapons, is wing mounted. And it also shows you that they can carry a center line drop tank, and they have a fuselage mounted engine. So this is the aircraft comparison tool, and I like to use it to make sure that I'm assigning the best aircraft to fight against the aircraft that the enemy has, that I know that they have at a base. So this is a cool tool to help you do a side-by-side comparison real quick. Okay, the last tab I want to talk about here is going to be the Air Groups tab, Air Groups and Pilots. So this basically shows you all of your air groups and pilots that you currently have in your game. So there's filters here, so it shows you active and reinforcement. So if I click on active, it shows you just the air groups that we have on the map right now, currently in game. And reinforcement shows you the units that you're going to be getting and when you're getting them. So for example, this unit here, this Alpha unit, we're getting on the 21st of December, and it's going to be assigned to the armed merchant cruiser Kiyosumi Maru. All right. Further down, we have a Val unit coming in at Oita, 54 days away. So this will show you what you're getting eventually, and this active shows you what you have right now. And you can subdivide it out by fighters, the night fighters, the different types of aircraft. Then you can go specifically aircraft type, if they're flying or upgrading, and the mission set. Again, you can use that to sort all kinds of stuff as secondary missions as well. I usually leave all this on all, and I leave this on active if I want to know what I currently have. And again, since we're playing this Japan, we can either have Army or Navy or all. Headquarters type, I'm not overly concerned about that. And special, this is a good tool here. So let's say we want to know what units we have that might be short of pilots. So if we go by insufficient pilots, it will give us 2 units on the map that do not have enough pilots to do their job right now. So how do we know that this is an issue here? So this base currently has 27 ready and 9 reserve. So if you add those up, that's 36 aircraft, but we only have 35 pilots. So we would need an additional pilot for this thing to be fully kitted out. Additionally here, like on this Hiryu, it shows that we have 18 aircraft ready with 3 in reserve for a total of 21. But we only have 20 pilots capable of flying. Now we're getting another 2 with some delay, right? A 1-day delay, maybe more delay. But as of this moment, this unit does not have enough aircraft, or correction, pilots to fly all of its aircraft. So I use this special thing quite a bit because it helps me figure out quickly what units need more pilots. And then there's some that show insufficient aircraft. It's pretty self-explanatory. This Nate unit here, for example, it's allowed to have up to 12, but it only has 9. So it needs 3 more aircraft. So this helps you figure that all out. Now, if you want to know specifically what pilots are assigned to any particular air unit, you can highlight it and click on pilots. And it will show you all of the pilots that are assigned to it with some statistics for you. And you can click on each one of these and it will show you their turn-by-turn change in their statistics as they continue to progress. If you click on the history tab, it will show you as a unit the things that this unit has been doing from one turn to the next. So I only got 2 turns of data loaded up here, but you can imagine if it's like a fighter unit on a carrier and it's been in combat for 4 months straight, you're going to have a lot of data on here, and you can track their experience, their morale, their fatigue, how many kills they've been getting, how many aircraft they have, so on and so forth. All that data is available to you here. And lastly, you have this upgrade thing. If you click on that, it shows you the different upgrade paths that this unit can take. So you can start planning out your upgrades of what aircraft you may need to start building. If you want to upgrade this Lily unit, for example, and you want to get them in a Helen, you need to plan accordingly with your production to make sure you make enough aircraft to kit out whatever unit you want to upgrade with the aircraft you want. So that's why this little upgrade path thing is pretty cool, because it lets you see all the different variations and aircraft upgrade paths that each air unit can take. All right. So we go to pilots, and this is a listing of every single pilot you currently have in the game. And you can sort it by their locations. So they have multiple different locations that you can be in your reserve, TRACOM, group, or the group reserve. And you can sort them by the type of pilot that they are, a fighter pilot, so on and so forth. So this shows you every single pilot. And then on top of that, if you click on that individual pilot, you can click on history and see his entire combat history. You can see how many sorties they fly, how many missions they're flying per day, their fatigue level, kills, and their fate. Like if they get wounded in action, missing in action, killed in action, you'll see that here. So that's the pilot tab. And then lastly, this is your pilot training pool. This is just more like GWiz information. There's not a whole lot of input you have onto this. It just shows you what you're getting every month and the experience level that each pilot has the longer they stay in the pool. So if you're constantly going into your pilot replacement pools because you're burning up a lot of pilots, you'll notice that their experience levels are progressively lower and lower as they get assigned to your active air units. So this tab allows you to track that. And again, it has a history. You're not going to see a whole lot of drastic changes at any given turn here, but that's also available for you. Okay, so I've been talking for over 30 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and end this video now. The next things we're going to talk about are ships and ship production. This is a very long topic, and there's a lot of important information here that I want to discuss, but I think it needs its own section because there's a lot going on with that. So I'm going to end this now. If you feel like I didn't fully explain something good enough, please leave a comment and tell me what you want me to go over again. I'll reply to you directly. I'll get you the answer that you need because there's so much going on here. I'm sure I've glanced over something in one of these data sets that you may want to know more about. So please let me know what that is so I can get you the answers. So thanks for watching. Please stay tuned for the next video and where we go over ship and ship production data. All right. Thank you.